Yes, guys, welcome back to the MMA Sucker channel. As always, I'm Frazer Krohn, and this is your UFC 321 co-main event breakdown. It's for the vacant strawweight belt, and somehow, some way, UFC have managed to do what they intended to do all those years ago when they signed Mackenzie Dern. They have managed to get Mackenzie Dern in a title shot, in a winnable fight for Mackenzie Dern against Jandiroba. Let's take a look at some quick stats before we sort of get into the breakdown. Jandiroba has a record of 22-3. Dern has a record of 15-5. The average fight time for each woman is fairly similar. Jandiroba 12 minutes and 4 seconds. Dern 13 minutes and 27 seconds. There's an inch height advantage for Dern, but that's kind of negated with an inch reach advantage for Jandiroba. Obviously, both women were coming in at 115 pounds championship weight, because that's what this fight is. It's a championship fight. Let's talk a little bit about the fight itself. Obviously, it's a little bit frustrating for me because I know that regardless of who wins this fight, they're not the best 115-pound fighter in the UFC. We know that. We know that Weili Zhang is the best 115-pound fighter in the UFC, and the only reason, it's not that she's got too big for 115 and can't physically make 115 anymore. She's chasing greatness and going up to face Valentina Shevchenko in November at flyweight. It's not that she's ran from the division, because I think she could probably beat, with respect to both of these girls, I think she could beat both of these girls on the same night. So it's a little bit of a strange one for me that we're crowning a strawweight champion who is not the best strawweight in the UFC, or not the best woman who can make strawweight in the UFC. Taking a quick look at the UFC rankings, this fight doesn't make sense either, to be honest. You've got the number one contender, or ranked number one in the division. I think it's joint at the moment. Let me double check on the official UFC rankings. Let me double check on the official UFC rankings, because at the moment it's saying I'm getting that it's joint. The number one contender is I'm not gonna comment on the UFC rankings because that will make this video very long. But we've got Jandiroba and Tatiana Suarez, both joint number one, ranked number one at strawweight. We've got no number two. Then we've got Yang Xiaonan, Amanda Lemos, and ranked number 5 is Mackenzie Dern. Enough said about that, the better. But let's jump into the actual fight itself. Co-main event, so it's going to be a five round fight. We will see Mackenzie Dern and Jandiroba in a rematch. Now, these two women took on each other in 2020, with Mackenzie Dern coming away with a win on that occasion. A few of the sort of key stats for that fight: Dern went 0-5 with her takedown attempts. Jandiroba attempted one takedown and was successful in that takedown. Dern outlanded Jandiroba 101 strikes to 80 and won 29-28 on all three scorecards. I have an article coming out this week where AI predicts this fight and how this fight will go. I do this for every single pay-per-view and every numbered event, in usually the co-main and the main, but definitely the main event. I've got one coming out this week or later this week, or it might already be out depending on when this video goes out, predicting how this fight may go. And one key takeaway from what I've found out from my own reading, and found out quite simply from what AI was able to tell me, is that Dern is focusing on putting on a lot of size and strength ahead of this fight. The reason for that is that, let's be honest, her wrestling is, with the greatest of respect, atrocious. She is not a good wrestler. Her takedown accuracy is 17%, and she has an average of just 0.89. Now, I looked at the stats from her fights before and her fights after Jandiroba. I've got them all here. Takedown attempts before Jandiroba. So this isn't to say that she was unable to get any takedowns in the UFC, because she's got submissions on her record prior to the Jandiroba fight. However, her takedown offense wasn't there. She was 1-13 in her first 5 UFC fights, and she went 4-1 in those UFC fights. Interestingly enough, she scored 3 submissions despite only gaining 1 takedown. Against Jandiroba, as we know, she went for 5. She didn't score any. The fight after Jandiroba, she fought Nina Nunes. She went for a takedown. She got the takedown. She got the armbar submission. Sorry, she went for 2 takedowns. She got 1 takedown. She got the armbar submission. Post Jandiroba, so in the 5 years since the Jandiroba versus Mackenzie Dern first fight, she's gone 11-50 on her takedown attempts. So you're talking roughly 1 in 5 takedown attempts. It's just over 20% of the takedown attempts that she tries, she gets. That really was highlighted against sort of Marina Rodriguez, when she only managed to score 1 out of her 8 takedown attempts, and was, for want of a better phrase, battered in that fight. Lost it 49-46 on all scorecards. Was just outstruck. Rodriguez almost doubled up the amount of strikes landed on Dern than Dern was able to land on her. You look at someone, I'm just picking out the losses. Yang Xiaonan, she landed 2 takedowns, but she attempted 11. That Jessica Andrade fight, she attempted 4 takedowns, didn't land a single one. Amanda Lemos attempted 3, only landed 1. She's not a good wrestler, Mackenzie Dern, but she's packed on a lot of size. She's packed on a lot of muscle. I think the reason that she's not a great wrestler is because maybe prior to more recent fights, her opponents haven't feared her strikes at all. They can sort of take 1 or 2 on the chin and make sure that they defend the takedown, because that's where she wants the fight to be. Mackenzie Dern wants the fight to be on the floor. She's a phenomenal jiu-jitsu practitioner. She's not a good striker. She's not a good wrestler. And like I said, somehow the UFC have managed to shoehorn her into a title shot. This is what their intention was all the way back in, I'm not sure when she made a UFC debut, 2018. It's taken her 7 years to get to a title shot. And somehow, some way, they've managed it. But interestingly enough, I think she has the edge in this fight. Despite the fact that I'm saying, she's not a good striker, she's not a great takedown, she's not a great wrestler, I think she has the edge. And the reason for that is Jandiroba has got no power at all. She's got 1 TKO on her record, and that was as a result of an injury. She's very good on the ground, but so is Mackenzie Dern. And she's not a particularly big strawweight. Now, that's where an issue sort of lies for me, is that if Mackenzie Dern is focusing on putting on some size, putting on some muscle, let's hope that she makes the weight, because we know that she struggled to make the weight in previous fights. And not just struggled, she's just, brutally missed weight. I know she hasn't missed weight for a long time. I just want to check when the last time she did actually miss weight, because I know that she's kind of got those weight problems behind her. But I know that, she missed weight against Amanda Cooper. She weighed in at 123 pounds for a strawweight fight. She missed weight prior to her UFC career a few times, and I think she struggled to make the weight, or has struggled to make the weight on occasion. But as I said, Jandiroba is not the biggest 115-pound fighter, and if Dern is focusing on a lot of muscle and a lot of strength work, A, I hope she makes the weight, and I'm sure she will. But B, I think that really will pay dividends for her, being able to almost muscle Jandiroba down to the floor, or muscle her in the clinch and get the better of those exchanges. I think on the feet it's fairly even. Dern's got quite an ugly striking style. She stands very far out of range, but when she does she can swing, she can bang, and she does tend to sort of swing big punches when she does get in range. Which I think will be important, because if she can sort of, this fight isn't ending in a knockout. I can tell you that for free, and I believe this fight goes at least 22 minutes, and I think it goes 25. I think it goes the full distance. At very minimum, it goes 22 minutes, and Mackenzie Dern gets a submission late on. Like I said, Jandiroba is very dangerous off her back, but I don't feel, and in the offense on the ground, not just off her back, in the offensive grappling sort of realm as well. What I do worry a little bit about Jandiroba is that she was very reluctant to go to the floor with Mackenzie Dern in their first fight, understandably so. But I think that did in turn mean that it turned into quite an ugly striking battle. Mackenzie Dern, I think she's back with Jason Perillo now. That's what everybody needs. That's what everybody wants. He improved her striking ability without a doubt, and she needs to use that striking Mackenzie Dern to get the fight into where she wants it, into a clinch, and then eventually on the ground. Jandiroba, I do think that she is going to be a little bit cautious again getting into it with Mackenzie Dern, because Mackenzie Dern is so good at grappling. That's the issue here. But so is Jandiroba. She's a phenomenal grappler herself. I just think that the output of Jandiroba is just less than the output of Mackenzie Dern. As far as Mackenzie Dern is not afraid to just swing punches. I think Jandiroba, she does. She picks her punches a little bit better than Mackenzie Dern, which means that she arguably lands with it. She lands a little bit cleaner, but it comes at the cost of maybe not the most entertaining style. Strikes landed per minute, Jandiroba 1.97, Mackenzie Dern 3.31. So Dern averages, just over a strike and a third, say, more than Jandiroba. She's got a slightly better accuracy, but she does absorb, 1.5 more strikes per minute. If you just look at a common opponent of both women, in Yang Xiaonan, it's the fight that Jandiroba had last. A significant strike. She landed just 11 significant strikes. It was a largely dominated fight by Jandiroba, 30-27 on all three scorecards. She was able to get the fight to the floor, and when she got it there, she was able to hold Yang Xiaonan there. But what was a little bit concerning is that she wasn't, despite the, she landed 96 strikes, and a lot of those strikes were kind of softening Yang Xiaonan up on the floor, but she wasn't able to get the finish. Now, what that tells me is that she's not, she's too happy. I'm a position over submission guy. I believe that is the way to go, but I think Jandiroba is a little bit too comfortable sometimes, having the position over going for the submission. What that will result in against Mackenzie Dern is trouble, because Mackenzie Dern is far better than Yang Xiaonan on the floor off her back. If she is taken down, which I could potentially see happening if Jandiroba isn't kind of a bit too cautious with the ground game, I think there could be issues there for Mackenzie Dern. For Jandiroba, because she, like I say, she doesn't strike hard enough when she's on the floor. She's too sort of conscious about the position rather than going for the submission, and that could come round to bite her. When Mackenzie Dern faced Yang Xiaonan, it was a similar story. Dern landed a lot of strikes, but none of them were really significant. She landed 224 strikes, of which just 61 were significant. So, and that was different because it's across 5 rounds. So it's you can take some from it, but not masses from it. So where am I going for this fight? I am going to pick Mackenzie Dern by unanimous decision, and the reason for that, I think that she's ever so slightly better on the feet than Jandiroba. I think that she's going to come into this fight with phenomenal shape. She's much, much more used to the 5-round distance in the UFC than Jandiroba. And I think Jandiroba, again, is going to be a little bit cautious about taking this fight to the ground. If she does get it to the ground, I can even see, Mackenzie happily losing a round off her back, but maybe even being stood up by, I'm not sure who the referee is, but being stood up by the referee, because Jandiroba isn't being active enough and isn't searching for a finish enough whilst on the ground. I'm going to go a pretty wide decision. I think 49-48, or maybe a 50-45, but 49-48. I think Jandiroba maybe gets one of the middle rounds, 3 or 4. I can't see a finish. I think Jandiroba is very good on the ground. I think Mackenzie Dern is very good on the ground as far as submission defense is concerned. Although, you know, Mackenzie is a phenomenal submission offense fighter, I think Jandiroba's got more than enough to be able to sort of keep herself out of trouble on the ground. And this one's not ending in a knockout. There's almost zero chance. I think they've got a combined sort of 3 knockouts. I think that might be being generous even between them. Yeah, they've got 1 knockout, and it was a 1 TKO finish, and it was an injury. And that was for Jandiroba. You know, she won via injury to her opponent. I'm picking Mackenzie Dern. Let me know in the comments down below who you're picking, and let me know if you think that either one of these girls is going to be able to hold on to this belt for any length of time, because I'm predicting that that's not going to happen. All will be revealed on Saturday night in the UFC 321 co-main event. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I will catch you next time.